Consensus second-team All-American JT Toppin is back in Lubbock, and the Red Raiders are ready to contend yet again at the top of the Big 12.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Thursday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making us your first listener watch to get your college basketball content and kick off your Wednesday perfectly. Reminder, you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Special shout out to all you everydayers and all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. Glad you're all here. Today, it is our 13th team preview. We've done UConn, Indiana, Marquette, Illinois, Alabama, St. John's, Purdue, Arizona, Gonzaga, Memphis, and Washington. You can find a playlist of all that linked up there in the corner for those of you watching on YouTube. And today, we go down to Lubbock, Texas, where we get the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Joining me to help unpack Grant McCaslin's team is our buddy Chris Level, one of the great hosts of Locked On Texas Tech. And you can hear his sultry tones, the dulcet vibes of his voice coming to you on the Red Raider radio call as well. It's great stuff. Level and I are going to look back at last season. We'll talk storylines. We'll talk personnel. We'll look at the schedule. We'll look at predictions and so much more. Level, I'm so grateful to you for joining me smack dab in the midst of football season, my man.
And it's an honor to be talking to the man with the best head of lettuce, I'm telling you, in the United States of America, man. No, it's been crazy around here. I mean, there's been so much chatter with football going on and everything, and then with everything that they've done pointing toward football. But basketball here has become wildly popular. Really since Tubby Smith took this thing to the tournament, and then Chris Beard took it over and took him to the title game, the Final Four, the Elite Eight the year before that. And Grant has just taken it as well, and it just has become a very hard ticket. Season tickets are sold out. There's a waiting list a mile long, and I'm getting questions. This is a very highly anticipated football season in Lubbock, but I'm already getting questions about this basketball team, and it just speaks to the popularity of what basketball is in the Big 12 and at Texas Tech, and I'm here for it. I think that they've earned a lot of street cred because they've had some deep NCAA tournament runs, and I expect this year to be another.
Man, that's all very well said. It is well earned. And here we go. I can't believe it's year 3 of the Grant McCaslin era, but we're loading it and it's going. Last year, quick look back, gang. 28-9 overall, 15-5 in Big 12 play. The Red Raiders were second in the Big 12, 4 games back at Houston, man. Houston has just been running this thing since they joined 2 years ago. In the Big 12 tournament, the Red Raiders were the 2 seed, beat Baylor in the quarterfinals before falling to Arizona on Friday in the semis. And then NCAA tournament, what a wild ride. 3 seed for the Fighting McCaslins, beat UNCW and Drake in the first weekend, and then had that crazy comeback against John Calipari's Hogs in the Sweet 16, an 85-83 win in overtime. I loved it because while, Darion Williams had that tough game, he comes back, hits a massive game-tying 3 with about 10 seconds to go in regulation, then follows it up with the game winner in overtime. And then while maybe they shouldn't have won that game, maybe the Red Raiders should have won their Elite 8 game against Florida, but good grief, the things got hot from beyond the arc, and Walter Clayton Jr. just took over in the final minutes, and it was indeed the Gators moving on to the Final Four instead of the Red Raiders. Level, what a crazy year 2 was for Grant McCaslin.
Yeah, Isaac, this was a team at the beginning of the conference schedule that was not very good defensively.
Yeah.
You had a okay non-conference schedule. JT Toppin had missed about a month of action. You lose a game against A&M and just kind of muddled around, and we weren't real sure what you were. And I think Grant was very frustrated about the way that they were playing and gelling defensively. And if you remember him coming from North Texas, they were scoring in the mid 50s. They would just shut you down. They were very methodical with what they do in offense. And when he got the job, it was like pace of play. Like, man, is this the kind of style we want to watch here? But it was the defense that he was concerned about halfway through his second year here. And you go on a trip to Utah and you play Utah and BYU in back-to-back games on a Saturday, Tuesday, and their season just kind of started to take off. Elijah Fisher had been okay up to that point, and then he just became this very scary weapon for Texas Tech, and it all started to kind of gel. But it was an afternoon in Houston on a Saturday afternoon when JT Toppin and Grant McCausland were only a part of about 3.5 minutes of action, and that was rejected, which was just complete silliness. And we all knew what Houston is and was and everything. And I thought, oh, you don't have a chance. And yet you did have a chance, and you did figure out a way to do it. And that's when I thought, okay, look out. This team is salty. They're figuring it out. It's flawed, and it doesn't make some sense, but they're extremely well coached. And we're extremely well coached. And you pulled that off, and you really never looked back. Now, you need Houston to lose a few games, have a chance at a conference championship, because they just don't lose many. If you gave them the hell that they had in the league, so crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. That Houston win was part of a 7-game winning streak for the Red Raiders to get to 9-2. But yeah, literally, that was Houston's only loss of Big 12 play. But Chris Level, that same JT Toppin that didn't get to play that game is back. He comes, in my opinion, with Big 12 and National Player of the Year potential for 25-26. But he is the only returning starter. Chris, is this the kind of guy that it made sense for Texas Tech to give that massive payday and to work at building around? Did that make sense to you to get JT back?
Well, two things. He's the Big 12 Player of the Year, and it's not my money, so absolutely. But in all seriousness, Isaac, I mean, JT is somebody that I think he's just kind of starting to scratch the surface. I think he was very consistent as a scorer and a rebounder, and he plays really hard. And I think early on in the year, got into some foul trouble, just kind of trying to figure out who he is and how is he going to be utilized. But that pick and roll with him and Elijah, Elijah Hawkins. I think I said Fisher a while ago. Yeah. Elijah Hawkins. This is part of me being in football season.
That's right. That was my assumption.
There was a young man here a few years ago by the name of with the last name Fisher, but Elijah Hawkins. Jeez. But Elijah was just in that pick and roll, was just deadly, and he and JT started to execute that, and you have these 38 to 43% 3-point shooters fanned out, and it got to be where it's like, okay, how do you defend this? Like, what do you do? And I think that you'll see a lot of that this season. But JT, he's a tweener, Isaac. Okay, so if he was 3 inches taller, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
Because he'd be in the NBA right now. Yes,
yeah, absolutely. But because he's this is what NIL has been good for. It keeps players like this in college. But you're right. I think that he's a first-team preseason All-American. I do. I think, and you haven't had a lot of that around here. Jarrett Culver was a Big 12 Player of the Year a few years ago, and I think Keenan Evans in that one Final Four run, the year before when they went to the Elite Eight could have been, but he got hurt. But this is rare. But he's just he's a consistent producer, and I think that's it's a fun weapon to have that you can do so many things with, because he's going to always score and rebound.
Man. Well, and part of this is you said he's a tweener, and similar to last year, it projects that Texas Tech might have a bit of an undersized front court when we come down to it. We'll look at that personnel and more coming up in just a second as we look at who's in, who's out, and who's going to join JT in that starting lineup. Coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about DoorDash, y'all, it's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Texas Tech last weekend, the receivers, for my money, delivered in a big way. 4 different of these Red Raiders had 50 or more yards, led by Coy Eakin's 59 and 1 touchdown. Reggie Virgil chipped in 5 for 50 and 2 tutties. Crazy stuff. When the pressure was on, man, the receivers came through. No hesitation, no delay. And just like those receivers delivered for Texas Tech, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. Isaac Shade, Chris Level. We're now going to turn our attention to Texas Tech personnel. We've got some returners, but man, there's a lot out the door, and that's where I want to start. Darion Williams, man, what a just key piece to this team he was. I feel like I remember seeing Grant McCaslin refer to him as the heart and soul of Texas Tech last year. Chance McMillan, Kerwin Wilton, 2 of those great three-point shooters that Chris Level talked about, gone. Elijah Hawkins, that pick and roll that he and JT had to Kevin Overton, my man Fed. I love Fed. He's gone. Devin Cambridge and all his ongoing injury issues. All of these guys are gone, Chris Level. And so the question is, who is back and who's coming in the portal and freshmen to surround JT Toppin?
Yeah, I think of the guys you mentioned. You know, Federico was a role player. I think that you've replaced him with a young man by the name of Luke Bamboye that's more of a rim protector. He's a lob threat, all those things, but I think he's more of a defensive presence than Fede was. But the 2 guys that you're going to struggle to replace, but I think that they feel like they've done this. Now we'll see. Is Chance McMillan and Darion Williams.
That's right.
Darion is a fascinating case study, or like it was a weird dynamic in Lubbock, because I think Tech fans would ask aloud, did he play in every game that he could have played in? Because there was a game when you hosted Houston, you only had 6 players, and you come up short. There was a game at the Big 12 tournament that he could have played against University of Arizona. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not involved in any of that. I just think there was people but then he has these moments where he was clutch and all that. So replacing him, because Chance McMillan you were going to lose, okay, but they could have had Darion Williams back. But he flirted with the NBA. And I think as that process went along, the young man that they replaced him with is probably the guy that I'm most fascinated by, is Lawan Watts. Lawan Watts comes here from Washington State. He's a 13 and 6 or 7, but he also averaged about 4 assists a game. This is a point forward. He's 6'6", 230. He kind of plays above the rim, and he's a facilitator, but he kind of does a lot of the things that Darion Williams did for this team. And so really the question is, can he come up clutch in some of these moments like Darion did? That's a question that I think is fair to ask. What you replaced on the wings, with Kerwin and Chance and some of the Overton is Tyree Bryan and Donovan Atwell. These are 6'5". These are plus defenders. I think Grant was like, okay, 1 and 1A on what I'm looking for. If you have some size, but then also can you defend and can you shoot? If you check those 2 boxes, we are very interested. And he went and found 2 guys that they felt like were threats on the wing that can shoot it at a 38 to 43% clip and can defend. They're longer. They're athletic and they can get up and down the floor and run. And so I think he's trying to jumpstart how much better they are in defensively, because we'll get to the schedule in a minute. But you don't have time.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, you don't have time to wait till January to be better on defense with what you have scheduled in the non-conference. But the guy that I'm maybe most sure about of anybody that would have questions, because I don't think you have questions about JT Toppin.
Absolutely,
is Christian Anderson. I'm as about of sure of him as anything I've done in my broadcasting career in the last 15 years, in that he's just got it. He played with he had it last year as a freshman. I think he figures it out, whatever you're at, on the ball, off the ball. I'm going to make the right play. I'm going to produce. I'm going to do what the team needs. Now they're going to give him the ball for about 25 to 32 minutes a night and say, okay, here you go, big boy. Yeah, you've got this elite pick and roll threat. You've got these 3-point shooters spread out. And because what he did in the summer with the, Olympic version of Germany's, it was extreme. I mean, he took the ball from Luka and flushed it in one of these games. And I just think he's special. I think he's an all-conference type of player, and that's heavy praise. I think that I'm not so certain that he doesn't spend his last year in Lubbock, Texas this year. I think he's that good. So we'll see. But he's the key. He's going to be the straw that stirs the drink. And if he's good, I think everything else will be too. And that's why I'm pretty confident that this team's going to be really salty and contend with Houston for a conference championship.
And Chris, while I've been saying JT Toppin is the only starter back, let's acknowledge the fact that CA did start 7 games last year, and 5 of those were the last 5 games of the season. The other 2 were 2 of the last 5 Big 12 games. So down the stretch of the season, this young man is in the starting lineup. So, while JT is the only long-term starter back, CA is bringing his way back. Would he be your, I've been trying to identify a breakout player in each one of these team previews level. Is that, I know in Lubbock, right? Everybody knows who Christian Anderson is, but thinking at the national level, is he that for you on this team?
No doubt. Put it in the bank. I think that smart basketball people understand what I think he has as big a reason as anybody on why you're seeing some of these top 10 rankings preseason and why there's some of this outlook. I think people that follow this sport year round understand what this young man, and he's a dream to be around. There's no drama with him. He's extremely polite, and he smiles, he's happy, and but he's a killer. And you mentioned the games that he started. We need to go back and look at when he wasn't starting those games. We need to go back and look at who was finishing those games, because he was.
There you go.
Yeah. And so because you just, and again, I think you can do a variety of things with him because he's going to figure it out. He'll know the right play to make, the right shot to take, the right pass to make. I mean, all those things. And so I just think he's going to be handed the ball and say, young man, take us to the promised land. And I think he'll be able to do it. I'm not saying it will be perfect out of the gate as you've got all these new pieces, but I have a tremendous amount of confidence in that young man to just be a very productive player in every aspect right out of the gate. And I think that he's a natural point guard that was maybe he's kind of growing into this because he's always kind of been a combo guard. But I think he's going to have a lot more opportunities with the ball in his hands this year.
And I just want to remind everyone listening and watching that as you hear this isn't from some rando dude that hangs out at a bar in Lubbock, Texas, watching the games. This is from a man who sits literally courtside watching all the action unfold, is entrenched in this program. So when you hear this, you know that it is legitimate and what's going to happen this year. Chris, let's switch from that backcourt conversation to the front court, because last year there was obviously some undersized. I mentioned this earlier with with it being Darion and JT. But man, it works because of scheme, because of defense and what they're able to do. Obviously, with assuming that it is Watts at the 4 and assuming that it is JT at the 5, if that's what coach goes with, how will Tech navigate yet another undersized front court?
Yeah, well, Luke Mamboye is a 6'11", 7 foot. I think that's your main piece. They have a young man by the name of Josiah Mosley that was a big time recruit, and he goes to Villanova for last year, and that program was a bit of a mess. And I think they got him back here. He's 6'8", and he's kind of can play. You can spin him up, spin him down. He can do some different things, and I think he has been very impressive because part of what they've liked about him is he's adapted to how good the people are around him. And I don't know if it was everything was as it needed to be last year at Villanova, but I think he's in a better place here. He's closer to home and all those things. So they'll have enough size because I think you can even play if you want to go small ball. I think you can play Lawan Watts at the 5.
Ooh.
And that's when you start really causing people some problems.
Yeah.
With what you can do, because you can trot out there a 6'5", 6'6" lineup across the board that's extremely skilled, and if you want to play, because Christian Anderson's still in there too. But anyway, that's the game that Grant plays. And so there was some undersized last year, but they consistently out rebounded teams. That's what was fascinating to me. It's want to, it's coaching, it's scheme, but it's also just like a culture thing too. Because Chance McMillan, he's just tough.
Yes,
and he was a very, very good rebounding guard. And I think you'll have some of that with some of these guys this year, because that's what Grant demands.
So putting all that together then, Chris Level, obviously, as we've been talking, right, it's more about who finishes a game and who's the most dynamic and who gets starters minutes. But everybody wants to know who's the first 5 on the floor, right? Like, that's what everybody wants to talk about. So in your mind, it feels like you've set it up to be Christian Anderson, Donovan Atwell, Tyree Bryan, Lawan Watts, and JT Toppin. Would that be what you think the starting 5 would be? Or do you think somebody else is coming off the bench? Mamboye's at the 5, JT's maybe down at the 4. How would you slice that out?
Christian Anderson is starting. Lawan Watts is starting. JT Toppin is starting. I think one of the two for sure between Bryan and Atwell are starting, maybe both. And then Mamboye if you wanted to go big. But that's kind of where it's at. But, Mosley will play. They have another freshman that they brought in from Minnesota. That was the Gatorade Player of the Year. Well, Jalen Petty's another one that they just got. He will help and he will play. He will be a backup guard that I think that they feel like he's got some Christian Anderson about him, and that he's tough and he can make plays. And so, but is this with Petty? Is this 8 minutes a game or is it 15 minutes a game? There's a freshman that's 6'5" that is a combo guard by the name of Nolan Groves that is just very smart and was the Gatorade Player of the Year at the state of Minnesota. And they just feel like that he can really do some things. And so you are much deeper this year than you were last year.
Interesting.
Because I think that they pretty much had 8 guys, and that was it. It wasn't going to go 9. And I think this year they can go 9 and 10 and maybe even 11. But the guys that we've mentioned at the onset of answering the question, that's going to be where the starters come from, in my opinion. I'm not saying that I would lock that up, but I would come pretty close to saying amongst those 6,
yep,
your starters are there. And then you've got your 6th man and your 7th guy and all those things. But that's, again, because you can match up to what you're seeing. You got to go defend Joseph Tugler. You may start somebody different. You're going to go, how are you going to defend DeBonsa at BYU? Well, we may go this way. So the league is loaded again.
It is going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see how Grant McCasland deploys all of that great personnel and how everyone works in and around. But, man, it's going to start and end with Christian Anderson, JT Toppin, and most likely Lawan Watts trying to do his very best Darion Williams impression while staying healthy and playing all the games. Going to be great stuff. Now, as Chris said just a little bit ago, there ain't no time to be waiting around to figure this out in January, man. It's going to start quick and early. Why? Because Texas Tech has a nice little non-con schedule. What's it all look like? Can Grant McCaslin's squad compete at the top of the Big 12 again and make that second weekend at least of the NCAA tournament? All that coming up to wrap the show in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who simply do more than just move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings that same level of intentionality to how they craft every model. You can feel that incredible Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Because with Mazda, everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. One of the great things about FanDuel is that it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on that old fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more spice and energy to your Sundays. Looking ahead to basketball season, JT Toppin is tied for the 5th best Wooden Awards at FanDuel at plus 1,500. And Texas Tech, 9th best national championship odds at plus 2,000. You want to get in on that action? Check it out. You ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. All right, Mr. Level, let's take a peek at the Texas Tech schedule here. 31 regular season games in college basketball. Big 12 has 18 conference games. That means there's 13 in the non-con. With all due respect to some of the bye games in mid-major schools, I'm going to focus our attention in on the higher level games. I'll rattle them off and just get your takes on them, Chris. Tuesday, Veterans Day, November 11th. At Illinois. This is the first time playing each other. It's the first game in a home-and-home series back in Lubbock next year. Thursday, November 20th, the beginning of the Baha Mar. That'll be against Wake Forest. And then on Friday, the Friday before Thanksgiving, it'll be either Memphis or Purdue. With all due respect to Tigers, please let this be Purdue, Texas Tech. Good grief, that would be insane. And then we fast forward ahead to Sunday, December 7th, against LSU down at Dickies Arena, a great arena there in Fort Worth. And then the next Saturday, man, December Saturdays are always loaded, and Texas Tech is no different. Saturday, December 13th against Arkansas over in Dallas, a different part of the Metroplex there at the American Airlines Center. That'll be a tasty, tasty rematch of the NCAA tournament last year. And then the next Saturday, December 12th, against Duke at the world's most famous arena, MSG, there in Manhattan, in New York City. Chris Level, I love all of this. What do you like about the non-con slate?
It's about as good of a non-conference schedule as this program has ever had.
Wow.
And I think if you end up playing Purdue, which it seems likely, I think that then it becomes that. Because remember when we started this show and you were going through all the previews that you'd already done, because you're going through like this top 15 of these programs and everything, you mentioned a lot of the programs that you just mentioned again. I mean, Illinois is going to be a top 20 team. Arkansas is going to be a top 10 or 15 team. Duke is certainly a top 10 or 15 team. Purdue may be the number one team in the country. And then if we even, glance out even further, your home and homes with the Big 12 you've got a pair with Houston, you've got a pair with BYU. I mean, so the league did you no favors, but Grant was very intentional with this schedule. I think he knows what he's got. I think he wanted to test them. I think that the league in general was told by the head of basketball for the Big 12, if we want to be treated like the SEC and get a variety of our teams in, you need to go test yourselves. Are you trying to test yourself to just make the tournament? Or are you trying to test yourself to be like a 1 or a 2 seed? And so I think Grant was one of the coaches that very much said we want to try to put ourselves in a position for a 1 or a 2 seed. So you go test yourself, because these games, as we know, these games are just as important as whatever you're doing in February and March.
That's right.
I mean, look, Kansas struggled in the conference schedule last year. However, they had done so well in the non-conference that they still got a very high seed in the tournament because of Michigan State and Carolina and Duke and all these games that they played. So that's the goal here. And I'm fascinated by it, just because you are a true road game, several neutral sites, and it's against like legit competition, great coaches. But I've never been to Champaign, Illinois. Looking forward to going.
That'll be good.
Been to the Bahamas multiple times with the team, and that has a chance to be fun. But it's always been in Atlanta, so this is a different one. Been at in the year you went to the Final Four, you played Duke in the Garden, and it was a loss. That was Zion's year and all that, but that was kind of the year when your team gelled. Even coming off of that loss, that was kind of the moment where they kind of like, you know what, we can't compete with these guys. Why didn't we? And it kind of they took off from there. So anyway, it should be. And then Arkansas, that's an old Southwest Conference matchup at American Airlines Center. So they'll be calling the Hogs, and there'll be plenty of Red Raiders there. That thing will be hopping on that weekend. So inject it right into my veins, man. I'm here for it.
Let's go. Cannot wait to hear you on the call for all of those. One thing about Illinois is we recently learned that Andrei Stojakovic, transfer from Cal, who is Paige's son, for those who are unaware, is dealing with a knee injury. And it doesn't seem like, as it sounds, that he might not be back early in the season. No timeline really on that injury. That'd be a big blow. Would love to see him in that game, but obviously that could help Tech. And Chris, one of the things I love about the challenging yourself of it all is I think the selection committee, because of everything at their disposal now that's allowed to be on the team sheets, is a smarter and wiser committee that isn't just looking at wins and losses, right? It, like all of this, because of the net system, the quads and all of that, it all factors in. And so sure, maybe you drop a couple more games than if you were playing like a sub 250 non-conference strength of schedule, but they factor that in. And so ultimately, just even though you might have a few more losses, it's not ultimately that big a deal for Grant McCaslin's crew.
Yeah, I'm with you. These are fascinating opportunities because the wins and the gains you can get from them are massive, whereas you don't get punished if you don't get it done. Is that kind of what you're hinting at right there? I mean, I think that's whereas in football, it's in some ways it can be very, very different. And it's weird because the calendar, because there's so much good college basketball being played in December, specifically. You mentioned these weekends, and I feel like too many people are glossing over it. These are heavyweight matchups, and the committee, when they're sitting there filling out this thing, they're looking at a lot of what went on in November and December, and as they should. So that's why it's fun to schedule up like this and take some chances, take some swings if you have the team for it, and he feels like he does. So because I think it's a high risk, but major reward type scenario, and I just don't know if you're going to get punished too much by taking some of these risks, and so that's what makes it worth doing.
And ultimately, it's good for the game of college basketball that's fighting to get eyeballs on it. Like the people aren't going to tune in to see Texas Tech versus, West Texas A&M, there where my wife's from, just west of Amarillo.
right in Canyon,
we want to sit like LSU, Arkansas, and Duke in back-to-back weekends. That's insane, and it's so good. I love it. Going back to that conference schedule, the other stuff we've got home-only games are Cincinnati, Kansas, K-State, OK State, Boy, what happened to them on the football field last weekend? TCU and Utah. By the way, literally, as we were about to start recording this, the Big 12 put out the Big Monday schedule, and we will have Kansas at Texas Tech on February 2nd. That's the lone conference game that we know when it will actually be. True or road-only teams are both Arizona schools, Baylor, UCF, Iowa State, and West Virginia. So Level's going to get a trip to Disney World down in Orlando. And then home and only, we already mentioned BYU and Houston. And thankfully, the other home and away is Colorado, who doesn't project to be very good this year, with all due respect to Coach Boyle's team there. So Level, all that said, you look at that schedule, where would you project, and I know it's hard, unbalanced schedules, all that, but where would you project Texas Tech to finish in the conference standings this year? Are we looking at a 2 seed again?
Well, I fully expect Texas Tech to contend for a conference championship, but make no mistake, this is Houston's league. Until somebody takes down Kelvin Sampson and the Cougs, they deserve that respect. They've earned it.
Good word.
I think Texas Tech has been. I mean, I was like, it's one of the most fascinating things that I witnessed play out in front of me in Houston on that Saturday afternoon. I didn't think that the league handled that correctly. I didn't think the officials handled that correctly. We're just minutes into the game, and you've got a guy that's passing the ball, and there's something. We got to have some common sense here. But I felt like fans were cheated because of that Saturday afternoon prime, like a prime top 25 matchup. But you competed with Houston, and they wrote on your board after they came into Lubbock, and they wrote on the whiteboard, the toughest team wins, and they happen to be the tougher team throughout the 2.5 months. But I think that's Grant's goal, is to try to contend and win a conference championship. And I think that's the whole point here. But I think Iowa State will be good. I think BYU will be good. I think Arizona, I'm not real sure about, because they lost a few pieces, but it should be, you should definitely have an opportunity here to make some serious noise, not just in your conference, but nationally. But that's what Grant wants to do. He wants to win a conference championship, and I have some confidence at some point he will get that done. But Kelvin Sampson, it's your league right now, sir, right. And you've earned that right.
Yeah, hat tip to the Cougs, man, what they've done in wresting this thing away from to hear somebody say this is Houston's league as opposed to Kansas league is still kind of crazy, but it's the fact of the matter. Like, that is based in reality of what we've seen in Houston's first 2 years in the Big 12. Level schedule-wise, I'm going to give you where I'm looking at it, and I want you to give me a little over-under on it. I'm thinking non-con 10-3, and that's just strictly because of how crazy it is, right? Like, I would feel good about that. I mean, you'd love to go 11-2 if you could, but 10-3, I think good about heading to Big 12 play because of the toughness of the Big 12, because of the toughness of those two teams you play both home and away. I'm going to go 16-4, which is actually one game better than last year in Big 12 play, for a total of 25. And am I counting? Oh gosh, no, it can't be 16-4. I got to go 14-4. Excuse me.
Yeah, because it's 18 games.
Yeah, 18. Down from last year. So I'm going to go 24-7 for Texas Tech in the regular season. Over or under me there, or push.
And if you are that, and if you did go at minimum 10-3 in your non-conference, because I feel like that the only, I don't want to say like gimmies, but the LSU game and the Wake Forest game
should be
Wake Forest did win 20+ last year, so I don't want to gloss over that.
Sure,
LSU is trying to figure out who they are. Everything else though is a major victory on paper and otherwise, at least as we sit here and talk about it now.
Sure, right.
And but yeah, if you win 24 games with the schedule that you have next year, I don't know how many that if you're saying that's 7 losses or
that'd
whatever.
Be 7 losses. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
heading into the Big 12 tournament anyway.
I hate to say it like this because some Tech faithful will go, oh come on, you can do better. I would take that and run right now.
Yep, absolutely.
I would take that and run right now because I think that at minimum puts you as like a 2 or 3 seed nationally, with what you will have done schedule-wise. Now, if 7 of your conference or if some of those conference losses, if you lost to Houston twice and BYU, like the good ones, you need some meat in there. But I don't know. Can you be better than that? Yeah, but that's going to be tough to do. And some of this is going to be dictated by how healthy you are. Yeah. If JT Toppin misses a portion of your, that's going to make things a bit more difficult. But I think you ought to be. You want to talk big picture. I mean, this is a team that I think if you don't get to the second weekend, I think it will be a massive disappointment. I mean, I guess define massive. It will be a disappointment if you don't make it to the second weekend of the tournament, because I think they feel like it's extremely hard. But this is a team that can go to the Final Four. And that's how good they are, and that they'll be absolutely tested throughout the whole. From November 1st of November all the way through mid-March when you're in Kansas City at the Big 12 tournament. I mean, there's no gimmies in this deal. And so, I think that they could, but second weekend at least would be where you would want to say that you should go.
Yep. I'm right with you. When I think ceiling for this team, it's like the CA JT Toppin duo is insane. Watts is the perfect replacement for Williams. All the other guys, fulfill their roles well. The shooting that you're looking for replaces what has been lost. Challenging for that Big 12 title and a Final Four. And then who knows, if you can get to that last weekend, anything can happen. But that makes sense to me. And so all of that said, Chris, I'm going to go a 2-seed NCAA tournament. And I'm just going to say like Elite 8. As you said, could there be more, like in terms of a better record? Absolutely. But the randomness of the tournament, like I feel comfortable getting at least being able to say that. But as you said, let's get to a second weekend and then let the chips fall where they may.
Because this is a head coach and a staff that basically had this undersized, plucky team from Lubbock, Texas. They had the eventual national champion dead to rights. And then you're right. It took one of the premier performances of the entire tournament of Walter Clayton Jr. just to kind of start throwing up stuff that was just going in. You're like, okay, what do you do? What do you do here? But that's how close it was to playing in a Final Four last year in your own home state, which would have been, crazy. So, but this program is certainly not going anywhere. They continue to reload. They're recruiting very well. There's plenty of resources. So we'll see. And it's fascinating because this is one of the schools that isn't like picking one sport over the other.
Yes.
They have picked both sports to say, we would like to major in these two. And then if, softball too, but they are who made it to the World Series last year, but they are definitely trying to put their best foot forward with their men's hoops program.
Man, good stuff. It's so fun to see it happening as somebody who has family connections to the Red Raiders. And so I love it. I'm here for it. Guys, big shouts to Chris Level for joining us today in the midst of a crazy week. As always, make sure you check out Locked On Texas Tech, where they just do a great job over there. And if you're listening to a Texas Tech game and the actual broadcast of that, and mute ESPN and turn on the broadcast there from Lubbock, and you'll hear Level's wonderful voice this year. If you haven't subscribed to our show on YouTube, go ahead and do that right now down in the corner there, and subscribe on all audio platforms as well. If you haven't joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord, man, we'd love to see you in there. That link is in the show notes. Things are starting to heat up in there as we are now less than 2 months away from the tip of the season on Monday, November 3rd. As always, I want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the McBruins, and until tomorrow, peace.